This episode of This Is My Bourbon Podcast is brought to you by Distilled Experiences. You can find your exclusive Kentucky experience at distilledexperiences.com. And for every public tour, you can use the code MyBourbonPodcast for 15% off. One more time, that is My Bourbon Podcast is the code, distilledexperiences.com is the website, and 15% off is how much you can save on every public tour. Shall we go on to the show? Okay, yes, Curtis, yeah, all right, great. Roll the tape.
Yes.
Oh, jeez.
I didn't know you were talking to me.
Delayed response. I see how it is.
I just thought, you were reading the ad and that was going to be it.
Okay, on to the episode. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 114 of This Is My Bourbon Podcast. I'm your host, Perry. Curtis is sitting in the bourbon room with me. How are you, buddy?
I'm great, man.
Great. We just got done recording our pregame chats for Patreon at the $5 tier.
Hope they enjoyed.
I think that they might. We gave a very good review of some fried chicken.
Yes. The best fried chicken.
The best fried chicken. Maybe one of the underrated fried chickens. It's kind of the, we'll say, I don't know, the Evan Williams bottled and bond of fried chicken.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
It's good. Not too good.
But good.
Yeah.
Good enough.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, let's stop talking about fried chicken and let's talk about bourbon.
Mm-hmm.
We start every episode out with Flying Blind, where I blind our co-hosts or guests on something, and I just now realized that I haven't taken the tape off of this little sample bottle.
Oh, no.
But that's okay. You know what, Curtis? While I'm preparing this, I will ask you a question.
What's up?
What have you been drinking recently?
What have I been drinking recently? J.W. Dant.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because you said that's what you got from the your little hunting excursion.
Mm-hmm. That is what I got.
Ago.
For literally a 175, you can get it for $28. So really can't beat it. And it's just solid. It's obviously it's there's parts of it that's a little rough around the edges, but
well, sure.
For what you're getting, it's really good.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. I just revisited Black Ridge bourbon, which came from Total Wine. Excuse me. And is it's one of their private labels that they bottle. They source it, I believe, from Buffalo Trace, which is pretty cool. It's $30 a bottle, 90 proof. From what I understand, it's about 30 to, it's like 4 to 6 years old. We'll try some a little bit later. Have you had it before? I don't know if you've had it before.
What's it called again?
Black Ridge? This one?
Yes, I've had that before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have some more again. Here, I'll take that from you if you don't mind. Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
So, Flying Blind. Interesting. Kind of mapley. Like maple bacon.
Yeah.
But there's a spice on there, too.
Mm-hmm.
I have not had this yet.
Okay.
I of course know what this is, but this is the first time that I've tried this. I'll tell you.
It's like a plum.
Yeah. But kind of like, it's almost like baked plums. Like it's baked, like it's actually
I've
in
never
a pie.
had any like baked plum pie.
But like with everything that's kind of around it, like there's like a pie crust.
Yeah,
note
there's
on
definitely
the nose
a pie
as well.
crust. Yeah,
that I
enjoy.
I like the nose quite a bit. Yeah.
Cheers. I get the same on the nose, but then spice.
Wow,
it's a spicy boy, man.
Ooh. That's
cinnamon.
That's like going into my sinuses. Why is this clearing me up so much? Holy moly!
Clove.
Yeah, no, clove and cinnamon.
Yeah.
I'm definitely picking up. But like right off the bat, it hit me with a spice bomb,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and then some of the pie crust flavors developed, and
I enjoyed the nose better than the palate, but
I think the palate's kind of a roller coaster. It's so spicy.
yeah, it's spice, dude.
It's a spice bomb.
Mm-hmm.
I personally do not mind it. I think it's quite good.
Sure, yeah.
I think the finish is a little lackluster, but I think overall this is a pretty good little pour.
Yeah, it's a good pour. It's a unique pour.
Do you want to know what this is?
Yes, I want to know what it is because I have no clue.
No, there's no. I would have been surprised if you had gotten this. So this is a sample that was sent to us by listener Jordan Ferguson. What he did, and he had reached out to me about this experiment that he was doing, and was wondering if I wanted to try it. And I was like, yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So what he did was he took a new charred barrel, or a new oak charred barrel,
Yeah.
and he conditioned it with Appleton Estate rum for 2 weeks. Okay?
Okay.
So it's coating the inside of the barrel. It's kind of, getting those flavors imparted.
Yeah.
Then he filled it with 100 proof Knob Creek rye for 4 days. So this is a Knob Creek rum finished rye.
Okay.
Would you have ever been able to guess that?
No, I wouldn't have ever gotten that. I understand why I'm getting all of the spice and the from the rum, but yeah, no, I wouldn't have gotten that at all. The more I'm thinking about it,
Wild.
though, yeah,
Just wild.
The more I'm thinking about it, though, the more I am sitting there going, "Oh, duh,
Yeah, right.
it was a rum. It was finished in a rum cask." Yeah,
Nah, man. That's a great little experiment that he pulled off. So,
and what kind of barrel was this?
it's just like one of those
Little quarter
small barrels.
What do they call those? Not quarter cask, but
I've just always called them mini barrels
yeah, I guess that's what you would.
myself, but maybe quarter casks? I don't know.
I have no clue.
I really, honestly have no
Yeah,
idea.
they should make a name for that though.
Somebody's probably yelling at us over there
Yeah,
into their phone.
like, it's this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that was Flying Line. Thank you, Jordan, for sending that to us. That was really, really interesting and different, and kind of got me excited for this review that we're going to be doing later on too.
Yeah,
Which literally, and we'll talk about it later, just came in the mail moments before hitting the record button.
literally, Perry was just standing,
like,
looking out his window,
drumming my fingers and watching out
it'd be
for
here.
the UPS truck to.
They said it'd be here by now.
And I mean, you already know what it is. You're looking at the episode, but we'll talk more about it later on. So, shall we talk some news, Curtis?
Yes,
It's been an interesting week of news for the bourbon industry.
which is crazy because it hasn't been that long since we talked about.
Yeah,
this.
we was recorded on Sunday, and here we are on Friday talking more about it. Anyway, so first off, something really cool that happened this past year, which just came out from Buffalo Trace, was that they increased their tourism by 35%
I read that.
in 2019. So let me pull this up real quick so we can kind of
So to answer
some-
all the
get some
questions of,
numbers.
do they need the Bourbon Trail?
we're going to talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah.
But according to distillerytrail.com, thank you all for putting this article up. Thank you for allowing us to read it on the air. I don't know why I had to say that. Distillerytrail.com, it says they welcomed a record-breaking 293,996 visitors in 2019, a 35% increase from the previous year. And they also say, looking over the last 10 years, the distillery has seen an increase in visitation to the National Historic Landmark Distillery by 466% since 2010.
Wow.
If we're talking about whether or not the bourbon boom is still going strong, this is a great indication.
Still going strong.
People are willing to go and travel and see the birthplace of some of their favorite products. I mean, this is what you point to when you say, or when people ask, is bourbon still surviving? Is it still staying afloat? Yeah, it 100% is.
Yeah.
And, there's all sorts of different factors to be talked about with Buffalo Trace, them being one of the major producers of some of the top name brands in the world, Van Winkle, Stag, Weller, but when also
Blanton's.
Blanton's, yeah, absolutely. But then you talk about the fact that it doesn't cost you anything to go to their distillery and do a basic tour. Just that intro level of learning about bourbon. You don't have to pay anything. You get a free tour. You get to see what's going on behind the scenes. You get a free tasting. You get to try what they're actually making there. Like, it makes sense that Buffalo Trace has done 466% better since 2010.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where you're like, well, yeah, of course.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Not that I could have predicted it to the decimal point or anything, but
yeah.
I mean, it's easy to assume that
we're also starting at 2010.
Yeah,
so
right. But
that's a whole 10 years.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is just a really a great indication of how bourbon is doing in this market, in this industry right now. And, out of those 293,000 visits, I was probably there about 2,000 times.
Barry goes on a daily basis.
I really legitimately am at Buffalo Trace a lot, whether or not it's through the tour company or just kind of on my own.
Mm-hmm.
I love Buffalo Trace. It's like that gateway into bourbon.
Yes.
It's that thing you come back to. It's the nostalgia of like growing up as a little kid and having all those flavors and smells that remind you of being 8 years old, and like the storybooks that you remember from being even younger. Like Buffalo Trace is just, it feels like almost, and it's not, but it almost has this like Disney World of bourbon.
Yes, it's like the Disney World of bourbon, and the other that I was gonna say was similar is the Wonka factory.
Absolutely,
it's like the Wonka factory of bourbon. You walk in and there's just a river of bourbon.
I wish.
Could you imagine?
I wish. I'd go swimming in them there rivers.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that'd be amazing.
No, I think that
they should make a song about that.
River of bourbon.
Yeah, with like bourbon balls and just like everything.
It sounds like it's a criticism of the fact that there were all those spills that happened last year.
Yeah, it wasn't.
So I got to be really careful to
definitely wasn't.
Not toe that line.
Definitely was going for the Wonka factory.
Yeah, but I, one of the big things too, the Buffalo Trace is doing in reaction to it is they're actually expanding their distillery, or excuse me, their visitor center. So you've been to the visitor center, of course. So that back wall, from where if you go through the gift shop and head to the stairs where you go up to do your tasting and everything, that back wall is getting torn down, and they're basically doubling the size of the visitor center.
That's great.
So they're going to have even more room. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if this time next year we're looking at these numbers and it's 350,000. I mean, it would be crazy for them to not do that kind of numbers. So anyway,
which they no doubt had to increase that space to accommodate all those people.
Yeah. So good on Buffalo Trace. Well done. Very, very cool. The next bit of news, which I'm very excited about.
Wilderness Trail.
You beat me to it there, bud.
I had to.
But yeah, no, Wilderness Trail has made the move from the craft trail to the main bourbon trail. I will say, I knew this was going to happen. Like, legitimately, I had heard, back in July or August that this was a move that Wilderness Trail was going to be making. But it's just exciting to see that this is actually happening for them. have been fans of Wilderness Trail for so long, and it's great to see them doing so well.
Oh yeah,
There's just, I don't know, man.
it's gonna be great just because they are coming out with so many different, so many new releases and different products, and now you're getting into 6-year bourbons, and I think it's a good move to
That's 6
really
year
just
bourbon.
jump on that.
Oh man,
While they could.
I'm like counting down the days until the 6 year bourbon gets released.
Yeah.
But it does bring up an interesting point of conversation. And I want to get your perspective on this. So with Wilderness Trail, this is now the 18th distillery that is on the Kentucky Bourbon Trail. Now, if we're talking about, what's happened since 2010, there were 6.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So just a decade later, it's gone up 20%?
Oh yeah.
At what point does the Bourbon Trail get too big? Is 18 too many? Is 20 too many? I mean, like, where is that line for them? And like, it feels like originally it was this kind of exclusive club.
Yes. And it was.
And it definitely was, but the one thing that I have learned about the Bourbon Trail over the past year is that there's not a committee that decides who gets in and who doesn't. It's all based on paying into it.
Yeah, monetary value.
And it's $250,000 a year to be on the Bourbon Trail, to be, through the Kentucky Distillers Association and everything. I get it. I get that these distilleries are trying to make a name for themselves and they're trying to get that extra publicity and everything. But, I personally think that if your product is up to that standard, you don't necessarily need to pay into it, right? And that's not knocking anybody that's on the Bourbon Trail.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to take anything away from the fact that they are doing well enough,
especially since there's distilleries that are forefronts of the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we talk all the time about how much we love Heaven Hill, how much we love Wild Turkey. Well, some of us love Wild Turkey. I'm just kidding.
I just 101.
I know. I'm just messing with you. But anyway, those are brands that are really well known. Woodford Reserve, too. But the point is, do they need it? So, two-pronged question. Do they need it?
Okay.
And at what point does the trail get too big?
I think it is approaching... I don't think there's necessarily a time where it's too big. I think the problem is that there's no requirement. There's no set of rules or requirements to be on the Bourbon Trail other than one, and that means you pay it.
I 100% agree.
There has to be a committee. We've talked about this. There has to be a committee, a certain amount of barrels produced, or visitors coming to your visitor center.
Yeah.
There has to be a evaluation, a benchmark of saying this is what it takes, and it needs to be a competitive benchmark. It can't be like a low bar. I don't think.
Absolutely.
Because then it loses its whole appeal. If there's 30 distilleries that are like full out bringing in 50,000 visitors that are coming, like that are producing this many barrels have this many rick houses, like that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think you should be on it.
Yeah.
But I think there is a point where it loses its significance.
I think so too.
And I think we're kind of there. So that's where I'm at with it.
I'm kind of...
What was the other question, though?
Oh, well, the other question was, is it necessary for these big producers to be on it?
I don't think it's necessary.
I don't
But
really think it is either.
But I believe that if you change how you get on it and the company that you're in, then it becomes significant to be on it.
I agree.
At this moment
yeah.
in time, I don't think that they need to be on it.
I don't think so either. I think that when you look at what the Bourbon Trail is, it's a tourism attraction or tourist attraction.
Yeah.
Right. And that has negative connotations to it, but in essence, what it's doing is pushing people to seek out these distilleries, these either well known or not well known companies that are producing bourbon, right? So in that aspect, yes, it's great for some people to see that there is that benchmark, and they go, oh well, they have this sort of notoriety or this clout to them that they're allowed to be on the Bourbon Trail. And I do use the word allowed there because from the outsider's perspective, it is an exclusive club. However, knowing from the inside that it's not, and that they are paying $250,000 a year to be on it, it's not as exclusive. You're right. I think what it gets down to is if we're talking about trying to determine factors, and yes, there is a bit of subjectivity to it, but why not have like a tasting panel? Why not have a group of 12 to 20 people?
Yeah.
And it's like Peggy Noe Stevens and Fred Minnick and Michael Veach and
people that are respected.
The people who are respected and the people who, they have a prominent voice that people go to in the industry. That group of people get samples from the distilleries that are trying to get on the craft, get on the trail. They try them and they say one of three things: no, not yet, or yes.
Mm-hmm.
No, just flat out saying, get out of here with that. Not yet means throw them on the craft trail. Give them time to kind of develop their product. And then yes, just immediately they're put on the Bourbon Trail itself. I think that and again, it is subjective to have a tasting panel, but if you take that tasting panel and then you also factor in, their output at the distilleries and maybe, however many units they're moving per year and everything, I think that's a way better system of getting people onto the Bourbon Trail than just paying into it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, and I'm totally two-facing this whole thing. At the same time, if you are able to pay into it to get extra publicity, fine, go for it. That's a great way to spend your money.
Mm-hmm.
Other than like an ROI of trying to reinvest in yourself.
Yeah.
That's a great way to get more people buying your product and coming to your distillery to check out what you're doing. By all means. I'm not complaining about that at all. I just think that the process needs to be different. That's all it is. That's all it is.
Yeah. There needs to be some sort of requirement or benchmark of this is how you get in.
More than just paying.
Yeah.
More than just paying.
Yes. It should have a sense of notoriety. It should have this sense of, oh, we want to be on the Bourbon Trail so bad, but we can't because A reason or B reason. Just yet.
Yeah.
But that's a goal. That's a goal for us to become larger, something like that.
And again, and I'm so happy for Wilderness Trail to be able to get to that point where they say, yeah, we can make this happen. This is the next big step for us in our existence as a company.
Mm-hmm.
Great. And we love them too.
Yes.
We love them so much.
Yeah. I will say I do think I'll walk back my you have to produce this much. You have to do. I think that it should be your product should be for sure approved by a panel of people that are well known throughout the industry, that are known for their taste and for what is great bourbon.
I'm just getting out some Wilderness Trail for us to drink on, too, while we chat about this. When was the last time you had this?
The rye?
The Wilderness Trail Rye.
I have not had that in probably around a year.
Since it came out?
Yeah.
And around the time. You know what I'm just now remembering? Curtis, you and I split this bottle.
We did?
Yeah, we did. You went to Justin's House of Bourbon, and you were like, hey, they've got the Wilderness Trail Rye. Do you want to split it?
Oh, yeah.
And I have had this at my house with just like a third of it gone, quarter of it gone.
That's wild.
So we need to find a vessel for you to take.
Yeah, I'll take it home tonight.
Your other half home with you.
That's so funny. Oh,
I'm so sorry. I completely forgot that this.
Oh, I totally forgot about it. I brought it over and said, here.
So I said on the pregame chats that that I didn't have an article, but you know what, Curtis, dadgummit, if I did have one. And guess where it comes from?
This is the same website.
It's from GearPatrol.com.
Gear Patrol.
And I feel like this is going to be a new segment or something. It's like
grind your gears.
Yeah, grind your Gear Patrol.
Yeah. You know, I haven't got into Rise as much as I should.
I think that you should get into Rise a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because there's so much more to be offered.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like...
And I always know that there is. It's just I never jump on board with it. I never go get it.
And by the way, this is a single barrel of the Wilderness Trail Rye. It's 100.9 proof. Where'd the cork go? Thanks, Kurt. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so...
That's good.
So this... I'm already rubbing my forehead in this article. It's called How to Talk Bourbon, 11 Slang Terms Every Wannabe Expert Should Know.
I am so excited.
You ready for this?
Yes.
All right, number 1, juice. Fine, everybody uses juice. I've gotten to the point where I kind of hate the word juice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really care much for it.
I'm not a huge fan either.
It's used as a means to avoid saying whiskey or bourbon over and over again in conversation. But that's what you're talking about.
Exactly.
Why do we have to have
I don't think the purpose is to avoid saying bourbon or whiskey. I think it's just another way of saying.
Of expressing.
Wow, that pre-fire juice. That juice is great, I get it, but I don't like the term.
I get that people say it. It's not my favorite either. It's been used to death.
Yes. And to say wannabe expert, anybody can say juice.
Anybody can say
there's
juice.
There's no level of expertise where you say, oh, I can say juice now.
So how about this next one, which is also dumb? Unicorn.
Yeah.
It's one that goes without saying.
Yeah.
Everybody,
people use unicorn in multiple things.
You don't have to have somebody explain to you.
Yeah.
Jeez. Next one, honey hole. I kind of understand that one a little bit. Yeah. I'll give them a little bit of credit there.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give them that.
Not everybody's like, I get it.
Yeah, exactly.
And they have a pretty good description. They say most honey holes are found on the outskirts of urban areas where they'll receive a city's allocation of high-value bourbon, but with far less foot traffic. That's true.
Yeah.
I'll
give them that one.
Yeah, that's a thing that happens. I mean, we talked about it last week on the episode with that store on the outskirts of Frankfurt that got just a massive shipment of Buffalo Trace products.
And nobody came in.
Nobody was there for it. Mm-hmm. So, Honey Barrel is the next one. It says, unrelated to the honey hole, the honey barrel is something out of old bourbon lore. It's the platonic ideal bourbon barrel created by an unscientific, know-it-when-you-taste-it fusion of temperature, rickhouse location, age, distiller know-how, and luck.
But it is kind of related to a honey hole.
It is! It is! Jeez.
Because
You have to look at...
The honey hole
Jeez
might
Louise,
be the
man.
ones picking the honey barrels.
Potentially. But you think about the the center cut of the warehouse.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that middle section is where everybody says the best barrels come from.
Yeah. Continue.
I've never heard of this next one.
Okay.
Fake tan.
Fake tan?
Fake tan.
The only thing I can think of, and this is just me using context clues, is somehow a fake tan is like it looks darker and and older than it is.
Yeah.
Is that wrong?
No, that's right. So what they said is, though adding artificial caramel coloring to deepen flavor is a banned practice in the bourbon world, some drinkers insist there are distillers who give their bottle a fake tan. What? Why? Whiskey goes into a barrel as a clear spirit and comes out somewhere on the yellow, gold, brown spectrum. The longer bourbon ages in a new charred oak cask, the deeper the hue, and seeing as many drinkers still equate age to quality, a deeper color is a desirable trait. Never heard this phrase used before.
I've never heard anyone use it.
Never. Because that's not something that happens with bourbon. It shouldn't be happening with bourbon. If it is, you need to be shut down.
Probably, yeah.
I mean, you need to have a serious conversation about what you're doing with your product.
But that's not a grand term that is ever used.
I mean, you could have stuck with... I mean, out of the 11 that are on here, that could have been the one that you took off so that there could be 10. Like every list has.
Yes.
A top 10 list. Not who does a top 11?
Gosh.
This next one is tater.
What's a tater?
Oh, have you never heard the
I
the
actually
word
have no clue.
Really?
No.
Okay.
I am a wannabe expert.
Well, you should read this top 11 list.
Yes.
Thing.
You mean top 10?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
I meant what I said. It says, a sign of the times, the latest word in bourbon whiskey parlance, a tater is an enthusiast who perpetuates the category's newly found hype culture. Taters are the type to run to liquor stores upon hearing a bottle is getting hot, like, say, if it won an award. That's pretty funny, actually. And buy a case for the sole purpose of reselling it. For a complete list of tater moves, check out the Tater Talks 81 and counting signs. You might be a tater. That's a whole list. It's by Wade Woodard. He talks about what makes you a tater. I mean, like, but it's not just that you're going to buy it to resell it.
Yeah.
It's also that you're playing into the hype on bottles that everybody says are great.
And they really aren't that great.
I mean, like, that's why we're seeing things like Weller Special Reserve as being hard to find.
Yeah.
Because the hype started with Pappy, and then it trickled down to Weller 12, and then it trickled down to Special Reserve because
it's part of the same line.
It's part of the same line.
Because it's poor man's Pappy. It's the same mash bill.
Yeah. So, fine. Whatever. Tater's fine.
Okay.
White Dog.
Because I hadn't heard of that.
White Dog is the next one.
Everybody knows.
I mean, not everybody, but...
If you ever go to one distillery...
They'll tell you about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That one's weird. Angel's Share, fine.
I could ask my mom. And she'd be like, I know what White Dog is.
That's
and my mom doesn't drink.
Yeah, next one's Angel Share. It says the wood barrels... we don't have to get into that one. What is this next one? The Hunt? Used as a general term in collecting vernacular to describe the search for highly coveted bottles.
Gotta go on the hunt.
Nobody says that.
No.
Nobody. I would like to... I imagine if we were crafting out of clay this wannabe bourbon expert or newbie or whatever.
Okay.
And all you give them is like 3 or 4 bottles and then this list, and then everything that they've learned in that vacuum is how they're shot out into the world. So many people would go, what is the matter with you?
Yeah, why do you keep saying
Nobody says, I'm going on the hunt this weekend.
Yeah.
Would you like to join me?
Would you like... I've got the horses.
The horses are ready.
The horses are ready, and the dogs are
chomping at the bits. And
We'll
by
be-
George, we're going to catch that fox.
We're going on the hunt.
The hunt for the unicorn. Dusty's is the next one.
You're not a tater, are you?
Yeah, they have to incorporate that.
Yeah.
And they hold a bottle up to the light and they go, this looks like it's got a fake tan on it.
as they ride, they go, there's the honey hole. George, keep going.
Not good, man. Not good. Dusty's is next. Fine. I can
Okay.
understand maybe a little bit of
Dusty's.
explanation behind that. And then Flipper. Flipper is what they were trying to ascertain from the tater definition. That they're going and buying overhyped bottles to then resell them.
Yes.
That's a flipper.
That's a flipper.
Tater is totally removed from that.
My beef with some of this is these are terms that go across all industries.
Yeah.
You can flip a house.
You can flip a sneaker.
Yeah.
Or sneakers.
Yeah. You can hunt for anything.
I'm hitting my head on the microphone, listener, because I'm exhausted by these Gear Patrol articles.
Yeah.
I would like to assume, though, that a couple weeks ago they caught wind of the fact that we were reading these articles on the podcast and they're just trying to get ridiculous
I would love that.
and they're just putting it out for us.
Uh-huh.
If that's the case,
Keep it up.
keep them coming. Keep them coming.
We'll gladly.
Maybe we could do an episode with the Gear Patrol folks.
Mm-hmm.
I think that'd be pretty funny.
Yeah.
Anyway, that kind of does it for the
With that,
news and articles.
what are some terms that you would say that deserves to be on that? Not all the ones they gave, but just ones that you're like, you're missing.
That's a good question.
I would venture to say mash bill.
Yeah.
People
Rick
don't-
House?
Yeah.
I mean, like the first time that I said Rick House to Tanner, he stopped me and said, "What did you just say?"
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
And he said,
Exactly.
"Did you say Brick House or Rick House?" And I was like, "No, it's Rick House. Rick House should be on there. Mash Bill should be on there." I can kind of see White Dog being on there as a
Sure.
You know,
Okay.
I think that Master Distiller needs some explanation. I don't think that that's immediately comprehended by everybody. I think that even maybe even glass terminology.
Yes.
Like not everybody knows what a Glencairn is.
No, Glencairn.
Norlin.
Yeah, New Orleans on the edge because not many.
Yeah.
I think New Orleans off it because I think that's still of a very, very low popularity.
I think that list doesn't necessarily need to exist. You know?
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Like I just think that it's playing into a hype or an idea that isn't necessarily there. And we kind of talked about this on the pregame chats. People will be willing to let you into the world of bourbon if you are kind enough. You know, I mean, if you're not being rude about it or you're not trying to one up somebody, I think that it's within the realm of possibility that you don't have to squeeze information out of people to, learn about this industry.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to tell you. Somebody's going to wind up telling you.
Yeah, I don't know if there should be a list. There
No.
should probably just be, oh, you don't know what that is?
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
such and such. Just because I've been doing this.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I don't know, man. It's just,
For example, I didn't know what a tater was.
well, sure. Yeah, that's fair. That's totally fair. Well, that was kind of our, I would say kind of our main topic. I don't really have anything else to talk about unless you do.
Nah, I'm cool with that.
Yeah? Do you want to review this Elijah Craig rye?
I do want to review this Elijah Craig rye.
I am so excited
Before
for this.
before we get into that, Wilderness Trail rye, what's your thoughts?
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
quite good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, rye boasts that that thing of, you know, because it's younger. Well, excuse me, no, it doesn't have to be as old to have as much flavor or as
Yes.
much body to it. And you know, this is a 4-year-old
Naturally, because
rye.
the rye.
Yeah, exactly.
Rye has more of a spice, more
Hmm.
of a...
More flavor to it in
Yes.
general. So I think it's great. I need to do this. I need to do the Wilderness Trail rye and the New Riff rye up against each other
I'd love to do that.
to see which one I like best.
Mhm.
Because I like just kind of right now I'm leaning towards the New Riff rye, but this is still very good.
Yeah, and I don't believe I've ever had the new Riff Rye, so I will have to compare those two.
It's very rye. It's very rye.
Yeah.
To steal a phrase from the Greeds, it is very rye.
Mm,
But it's good stuff.
which makes sense. I think that is funny. If I'm a distiller, like distillery listening to this, well, yeah, we put rye. That's why we called it a rye.
Because it's a rye whiskey.
It's a rye
You
whiskey.
idiots.
That's
All right.
very right. Well, yeah.
Yeah, no duh. It's supposed to be. So this, as I said before, is the Elijah Craig Straight Rye, Kentucky Straight Rye whiskey. It's 94 proof, just like Elijah Craig Rye is. This came courtesy of Heaven Hill, as they have been so gracious to us over the past few months. They've sent us bottles and sample bottles and whatnot to
Very much so.
review on the podcast. Thank you, Heaven Hill, for sending this. Very, very cool. They sent a nice letter along with it. Let's see here. They said that it's a mash bill of 51% rye, 35% corn, and 14% malted barley. So it's going to be a barely legal rye. Let's see what else. It's the primary rye mash bill used by Kentucky Bourbon distilleries since taking over virtually all American rye production post-Prohibition. The same mash bill directly responsible for the rye resurgence seen today. Fair enough. Elijah Craig was known for his pioneering spirit. This heritage and his long-standing impact on the community lives on today through the award-winning lineup of Elijah Craig Small Batch Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey, Elijah Craig Barrel Proof Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey, Elijah Craig Single Barrel Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey, and now Elijah Craig Kentucky Straight Rye Whiskey. It's an MSRP of $29.99. It is currently available in the limited markets of North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Oregon in January 2020. For more, visit ElijahCraig.com. And that wraps up that letter. That was a dumb way to end that. And yeah, you can go learn more about that there. So one of the big criticisms of this, and we talked about this when it was first announced way back in like November, October, I think. Which, by the way, was one of our most popular episodes. So thank you guys for latching onto that. That was really cool. One of the big criticisms was that it wasn't being released in Kentucky yet. It was only being released in 4 different markets. And, you know, if you were going to release something in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Oregon first, not everybody's going to agree with that and go, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems bizarre, but it was explained to me, I think by Tim Gunderman, who you can follow on Instagram at Timmergund. Great guy. That the reason that they're doing this in these limited markets is because it is in more cocktail heavy places. And so they're so a lot of people like to change up, say like a Manhattan or an old fashioned. Instead of using bourbon, they use rye. Right? And so these must be markets that they've deemed more appropriate for a new wide release of a product that's probably going to be incorporated into cocktails more. So I kind of get that, but at the same time, and again, we talked about it, it seems like it should have been released in Kentucky as well.
You would think.
You would think. But here we are.
I understand.
Here we
I
are.
understand the fact that of the cocktail thing.
I'm very excited for this.
Yeah, me too, man.
Let me just say. So, cork pop. Oh, good one. That was a good one.
I like that.
Pour you some of that 94 proof Elijah Craig rye there.
I'll put that rye whiskey in that Norland glass.
Yeah, we're trying it out of the Norland glass tonight, which is different for us.
It is a little different. And I haven't used a Norland glass in a long time.
Yeah. Smells like a rye.
No. Does smell like a rye.
I got some on my lips accidentally.
Oh no.
I got my nose too far in.
We can't finish the podcast.
This one, creamy.
Yeah.
You know, for a barely legal rye, I mean, it makes sense that it's not going to have a whole lot of like rye punch to it.
Which would make sense. Because in comparison to the Wilderness Trail rye, you're definitely not getting as strong of a punch.
No. Kind of a light ginger spice in there too.
Yeah.
There's even it's kind of like a watered down honey note. Like it's balanced really well with some of the spiciness on there. But I like the nose. I think it's quite pleasing.
It's a little light for my taking.
I think so too, but I don't think that it's
not detrimental by any means. It's very good.
Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pour a little bit into my Glencairn as well, just to kind of, because it's side by side them.
I do wonder if that...
Oh, okay. Yeah, now it actually smells more like a rye once it's actually in the Glencairn.
Yeah. And now I can get the... Now it's not light. It's not light at all.
I actually like the nose a lot more in the Glencairn than I do the Norland.
I used to think I liked the Norland glass better.
I think that the Norland is made for a more overall smooth experience. And smooth is not a word that I really like using too much when I talk about bourbon, but it's what you want a smooth taste to be.
Yeah.
But if you're really looking for tasting notes, I think the Glencairn is going to be superior.
Yeah, just because it really puts the smells and the aromas, it filters them up. Yeah, filters them to the top.
I mean, yes, it does still smell like a rye whiskey.
Yeah.
I mean, it is very classic. It is very true to form. But I don't know if this screams Elijah Craig yet to me. Like, just based on the nose, maybe this would have served better as a different product name. You know what I mean? Like a Heaven Hill.
Maybe,
rye.
but we haven't tasted it yet.
We haven't tasted it yet.
So
I am curious to find out.
I think that might change it.
Yeah. Oh. That is tasty.
I'm okay with it.
Oh.
The finish is very long on it.
All right, I'm calling it right now. Best product of 2020. I'm just kidding.
Wow.
I'm just kidding. The finish, for 94 proof, the finish is ridiculous. I'm starting to get like floral notes towards the finish, and that honey's kind of popping out a little bit too. It's kind of when I say floral, I'm thinking kind of like kind of hibiscus-y, kind of rose water. Like,
Yeah.
it's very kind of like
I'm getting a
bouquet.
very fresh, like a fresh
It's
thyme
very fresh.
or like a fresh mint kind of feel.
I had my doubts. I legitimately had my doubts.
Okay.
This is really
I had
cool.
my doubts when I was nosing it in the New Orleans glass.
Right, and you went back to the New Orleans as well. How are you comparing the two now? How do you feel in comparison, I guess?
I prefer it in the Glencairn. But I haven't tasted it yet.
I have, and I definitely prefer it in the Glencairn.
Yeah.
It loses the creaminess that was on the mouthfeel.
The nose is
with the
significantly better with the Glencairn.
I think it overall
Yeah.
is significantly better in the Glencairn. Yeah, it loses the finish. The palate is so much lighter. There's nothing up front. It's just not as good.
Yeah. The palate, I think, it makes it too smooth. It makes it water,
Yeah.
which
No,
doesn't
I
make
totally agree
sense.
with
It
you.
shouldn't.
You think it would enhance it. I think too, and kind of going back to my previous statement about a smoother experience with the Norland, I think it's more tailored to high proof whiskeys.
I think so too, because it takes the ethanol out of the.
Exactly. Yeah. But it does something to lower proof whiskeys where it just kind of kills the mood.
Yeah, no, I know.
You
It's
know,
like,
it just
but
doesn't.
I need that.
Yeah. Sometimes you just need a little something.
Yeah, exactly.
I wouldn't even have been able to tell you that these are the same whiskey.
I couldn't either.
It's like going from water to wine.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Jesus miracle.
Praise
Going from the
Lord.
Norland to the Glencairn.
Yeah, it really is.
Golly, man, it's so good in the Glencairn though. You've given up on the Norland in this case.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna do the same. But have you added a Norland?
We threw that rye whiskey in there.
That's a Chad Perkins original. I don't want to steal the.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, he likes playing that character. But have you added in a Norland, darling?
Have you had it?
Have you tried it in a Norland?
Which he's a big proponent of the Norland.
He
right?
is, yeah. And I mean, like, I don't dislike the Norland by any means, but in this case, the Glencairn is king.
Yes. Well, shall we rate it?
I would like another sip before I rate it, so I can kind of readjust to the Glencairn
Okay.
profile. But if you want to go ahead and start with your ratings, by all means, go for it.
Well, I can just do my nose.
Sure.
My nose, I'm going to go with a 3. I think the nose is very good. Definitely in the Glencairn, you get that creamy, that spice, a little bit of that ginger you were talking about, and also having some of that fresh thyme, in my opinion. I really enjoy it. I do want it to be a little stronger, and I think that's why I give it 3. Still very good.
Yeah, I'm actually going to give it a 2.5.
Okay.
I'm kind of in the same boat with you. I think it's very understandably a rye, but there's not a whole lot that's making it a spectacular rye nose. Right. I think that it serves its purpose, and you want to move on to the palate. Right.
Yes.
So very middle of the road, 2.5 for me. I'm gonna give the palate a 3.5 though.
Okay.
I think the palate absolutely trumps the nose. Could it be a little bit more robust? Yeah, I think that's where the the proof kind of comes into play. Elijah Craig at 94 proof is just kind of a standard, right? I mean that's just how it is. When you're talking about Elijah Craig small batch or single barrel in general, it's a 94 proof whiskey. It seems like it could benefit from being around 100 proof. And then that kind of leads me into thinking about Rittenhouse Rye, which is also a Heaven Hill product and is bottled in bond. So maybe Rittenhouse is kind of that superior product, and we can kind of we can compare it if you want.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
that's interesting that they would put out a product at the 80 proof mark. Do you think this is
94?
94, sorry. Do you think that this is more of an introductory rye whiskey? Would you say if somebody hasn't had rye before,
absolutely
try Elijah Craig Rye? This is where it's at.
No, 100%, because you're not only giving them a lower proof rye, but you're also giving them a barely legal rye, quote unquote, at 51%. So if you threw somebody into the fire with a 100% rye or a 95.5
that'd be
rye,
crazy.
I mean that might turn them off to it. But yeah, this is very much kind of dipping your toes into the shallow end of the rye pool.
And I think it yeah.
Well, no, I don't even want to go there.
Yeah.
Keep
I
talking,
think
I'll get the
I believe
Rittenhouse.
that it's a really good move in the sense of, hey, you've had Elijah Craig bourbon, which is very good, and now switching over and saying, hey, if you like the small batch, if you like the Elijah Craig, try the rye, just to give you an introductory to a rye
and
whiskey.
I want to say too, when I was saying that I wasn't sure based on the nose whether or not the palate was going to live up to that Elijah Craig name. I think it does. I really think it does. I think it tastes like what you kind of would expect this whiskey family to taste like.
Yeah.
And, I've always categorized Elijah Craig bourbon as being like what bourbon kind of should taste like. Just if you're looking for a benchmark, it's Elijah Craig.
Yes.
And so I can kind of see that same thing with the Elijah Craig rye. I think that it's in that same ballpark. It's in that same family. Does it make it spectacular? Not necessarily, but I think that it's a crowd pleaser. I think that it's going to win people over. And, if you're one of those people who go, that's a smooth bourbon, or that's a smooth whiskey.
Yeah.
This is going to kind of play into that. I don't think that it's not punching you with a bunch of rye spice. I think that it's just a tame rye whiskey.
Yeah, it is.
But it's
good.
Still so
it's
good.
So good. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm gonna jump to price real quick before I get to my finish score.
Yeah. Just to say, we didn't do the finish either.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Is I was going to jump to my price just because it was on topic.
Gotcha. Well, I will shoot over to my palate and just say that I put it as a 3.5 as well.
Oh, okay, great.
Because I think that's where it really shines. It really gets you with the rye spice a little bit.
Yeah.
It eases you in. I think this is a perfect way to get into a rye whiskey.
Yeah, yeah. And again, if we're comparing it to, and maybe it's not fair. Maybe there's a bit of, it's apples and oranges. But if we're talking about what the quality of Elijah Craig bourbon is compared to this rye, I think that it's very, very much on par. I mean, if we're just taking it at face value, and you're going, this is what it should be. I think a 3.5 is an excellent score for it, honestly. Yeah. What about the finish for you, though?
The finish is on par with the nose for me. I think it's at a 3.
the finish is my least favorite part, not because it is bad, it's just not enough.
Okay.
So I'm going to give it a 2.
Gotcha.
Again, it's not because it's bad by any means.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it needs to have a little bit more to it. And again, I think that, the higher proof could have done something extra for it. I think that a higher proof, lower aged rye whiskey is typically pretty spectacular. And I think that, what do they say? I don't even know if Heaven Hill gave us an age. No, they didn't, but I imagine that it's around the 6-year mark. So in that case, yeah, it could be a little bit higher proof. And we're going to try the Rittenhouse while we're doing barrel rings and the mailbag as well. But yeah, the finish just needs a little bit something else. It needs just a little teeny tiny bit more to bump it up.
I understand that.
That being said,
I felt like the nose and the finish were on par for,
sure.
Like they were the same for me, and that's why I put it as a 3.
I just didn't get it. If we're talking, nose to finish, it was just kind of a downhill slope.
Okay.
For me, yeah. But at $30 a bottle, I think that's a really good deal. And you do have to take into account that it's part of a storied brand. It is from a distillery that they freaking know what they're doing, man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're not beating around the bush. I think $30 is highly appropriate. I'm gonna give it a 4. Yeah. And this is one of those rare times where, a lot of the time, I'm taking into account everything else, the nose, the palate, and the finish when it goes into my price. But I think, like, if we consider it more of a value, I think the $30 is great.
Mm-hmm.
I really do.
I totally agree, and I'm going to give it a 4 too. I didn't realize that it was $30.
Yeah.
And you can't beat that.
No. So overall,
It's a value. Like,
it is a value rye whiskey.
This is like something you could use if you're really into rye whiskey. It could be like a daily sipper. It could be, it's only $30. You're not spending a ton of money on this.
Yeah. So that gives me a 12 out of 20. Not the highest score, but to me, this is still a recommend. I think that, once whether or not it's in your market or it's going to be in your market soon, I think this is something that you should try. This should be on your bar cart or in your repertoire for people to try. Is it the best rye I've ever had? No. But it's still fantastic. It's still a
great
good
experience.
Rye whiskey. Absolutely, it is.
And my number comes out to 13.5, and I think both of ours is obviously a recommend.
Boy, that palate is really good.
It is. It's good.
I mean, I would even bump it up to a 4.
Would you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, 12 and 12.5 are not that far off.
No.
So, I mean, I'm in that range.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a really good palate.
Yeah.
Do you? Oh, okay, so I'm asking you, do you want to? We've already said, yeah, we'll try it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, do you want to try the Rittenhouse?
Sure.
So this is a 100 proof bottled and bond straight rye whiskey.
And this is made by Heaven Hill, correct?
This is also made by Heaven Hill. I assume that this is going to be a 4-year-old as opposed to a 6-ish year old rye. I don't know how this is going to go. I legitimately do not know what the outcome of this is going to be.
I'm going to ask the question of, do you think it will be very similar to what we just had, just kicked up a notch? Kind of the same profile.
That's my anticipation.
Or do you think it'll be its own thing?
I am anticipating that it's going to be the Elijah Craig rye on steroids.
Okay.
But I'm not entirely sure yet. Here's an idea, though. While we are pondering on this, while we're taking some time to kind of acclimate to this Rittenhouse Rye whiskey, why don't we move on to barrel rings?
All right.
And we listen to the question that came in courtesy of a good friend of the show, Dustin Whitaker. He called into the show at 859-428-8253, left us a voicemail, which is something you can do every week. This is Dustin's voicemail that he left for us for barrel rings.
Hey guys, it's Dustin. Just wanted to call into the show and see how you guys are doing. Wondering what you guys are thinking are your most anticipated bourbons of the year coming up here. You know, with all the stuff getting ready to come out. You know, I know most of the antique stuff don't come out until later, but through the year, I know I'm looking forward to the Rare Breed Rye. That's going to be interesting. So hopefully you guys can come up with different stuff. Maybe, I don't know, what else? Let's see what else I can think of real quick. How about we got Girl Scout cookies coming up. What about bourbon and Girl Scout cookie mixes? What do you think would go well? I don't know. Thin Mints and some Old Granddad? Maybe some Samoas and Jiffy? I don't know. Let's see. Curtis, Swan, Perry, you guys have a good one. See ya.
That's awesome.
That was good. Yeah. We'll answer that in stages, I guess. We kind of answered some of this last week, but our most anticipated releases. For me, it's definitely the Rare Breed Rye. I kind of feel like this is going to be 2020 might be the year of rye.
You think?
I think that rye has something special in store.
Yeah, because we have the Rare Breed Rye.
We have the Elijah Craig.
Elijah Craig Rye. Yeah, it could be.
Yeah,
it could be. I'm very interested in the Wilderness Trail new releases, the 6-year.
The 6-year.
Very excited about that.
I have to refer back to this this release calendar from breakingbourbon.com.
Yeah.
I am really hoping that this year's Booker's is going to be better than last year's. I really, really hope that it's going to be. Not that last year's was bad, but it just was kind of disappointing.
It was all pretty even.
Yeah. Of course, Kentucky Owl, I'm real pumped for this coming year. I was, again, a little bit let down by last year's Four Roses limited edition. So I'm kind of hoping that 2020 is going to be just a hair better.
Yeah.
I'd like to see what comes out of Little Book this coming year because we were such big fans of Little Book 3.
Yep.
That's kind of it for me. I mean, I don't know if it's my most anticipated, but I am interested in seeing what the benchmark releases are going to be like.
Yeah,
this
that'll
year,
be interesting.
if this is the year that they come out. What about you, Kurt?
I'm very interested, and this is kind of not is if I can find more Henry McKenna 10-year. I know that's not a release.
I know what you're saying, though. Like, you would like to see it
I just would like to see it more.
Yeah.
And so I obviously have the Wilderness Trail. What's some others on this list?
There's Single Barrel. The Wild Turkey Master's Keep 17-year bottled and bond. Knob Creek's getting the 9-year age statement back.
I'm excited about that.
I'm pretty excited about that, too. I think that'll be really cool.
I don't know if that necessarily changes much, but I think it's nice that it'll be on there.
Here's one that's not on this list from Breaking Bourbon, and we definitely talked about it last week. But the Old Forester single barrels that are getting bumped up to 100 proof and barrel proof.
Oh, yes.
I am really interested to see what those are going to be like.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they're going to be great by any means because that's just, I don't normally lean towards the Old Forester
line. Yeah.
Well, the flavor profile. But, I'm always willing to be challenged on that. And, if something good comes from it, I'm here for it.
Yeah.
I'm here to try it.
So number one that you're excited for?
I'm gonna have to go with the Rare Breed Rye. I really, really, I can't wait to see what that's like.
Okay.
Because, I've had Wild Turkey's rye products before, but I just don't know what it's going to be like at that proof. It's going to be 112-ish proof. That's really interesting to me. That's really intriguing. And I think just kind of from a kind of like a scientific approach, I think that's what I'm really looking forward to. So that's kind of it for me. What do you think?
I'm really excited about the 6-year
Oh,
Wilderness Trail.
That's okay.
That's
like tied for one.
Yeah, I'm very invested, I think, in Wilderness Trail and New Riff, some of those craft distilleries that I personally have kind of grown up with a little bit. Mm-hmm. So I think that's why I'm partly anticipating those so much.
Before we move on to the second half of Dustin's Barrel Rings, what do you think about the Rittenhouse?
It's good. I don't think it's as ramped up steroids as Elijah Craig.
I don't think it is either.
I think it's its own thing.
I
can see on the palate that it's ramped up.
It's got more finish.
Yes.
It's definitely got more finish.
That nose is wildly different.
Oh, it's very much more rye.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the nose has so much more to it. I would venture to say that it maybe is a better product. I think I enjoy it a little bit more. I think it's got more to it.
Yes. I think it very much is if you have had ryes before.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you have not had very much experience with a rye, this might put you off.
Yeah.
Not a ton, but it might be like, all right, this is
And this
weird.
was one of the first ryes I ever had. This might be the first rye whiskey I ever had.
Okay.
And it did kind of turn me off for a long time. I mean, like I had a couple sips of it and I went, maybe I don't like rye whiskey.
Mm. Yeah.
But coming back to it, it's really quite pleasant.
It's very pleasant.
So, yeah. I don't think it's that bad.
I think it's very good. I think I would say that's a better product just because I've had a few ryes, but I think the Elijah Craig rye is definitely worth it for anybody
really
that's
solid.
trying to.
Yeah, absolutely. What about this Girl Scout cookies and bourbon pairings?
This is cool.
I feel like this has been done,
Okay.
but it just kind of going off the top of our heads. Like, so I'm thinking like peanut butter patties. Or no, sorry. What's the chocolate covered peanut butter ones?
Tagalongs?
Yeah, that yes. The answer is yes, but there's another name for them.
Okay.
I can't think of what it is. Those and Old Granddad 114
Yes.
be a solid pairing.
Those and I'm going to Wathans.
I say Wathans, but
Wathans. Okay.
let's call the whole thing off.
Those and Wathans.
What about Caramel Delights? Or Samoa? Are those Samoas? I think those are Samoas.
Okay.
So that's like a kind of a coconut flavor. Dustin said Jim Beam. I'm going to go a little bit darker. I'm going to say like Elijah Craig barrel proof.
Okay.
Not the highest proof, maybe in like a 120, 124 range.
Okay.
But I think that it could really complement it well. I think that
I would go
really
with a
good.
Booker's.
Ooh. I could see Booker's for sure.
Yeah.
What about Thin Mints?
Thin Mints, I don't want to go as dark just because
No.
they're so rich.
Yeah. I would go maybe like a 90. Oh. I would want to try Thin Mints and Weller Special Reserve.
Okay.
I think those two could go pretty well together. Maybe my brain is associating the green with the green. I don't know. But
Could be.
But I'm thinking like the spice and the kick and the punch of the mintiness with the kind of softer side of the wheat.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I feel like that could work. Okay.
This is going to be crazy.
Okay.
And something that I usually don't, but Thin Mints and Maker's 46.
Oh. I get on board with that.
Okay.
We should do this for an episode.
Yeah, we should. I say this because it's more nuanced. It's a very good product. It's but not gonna overpower anything with the rich. I think it would pair well with the richness of the Thin Mint.
Yeah. I'd give it a shot.
Yeah.
I don't see why not.
I mean, anytime you're drinking bourbon.
How about some mailbag questions?
All right.
You up for them?
Yeah,
okay,
let's
cool.
do it.
So this
Do I have a choice?
No, you don't.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
This is from our Facebook group. It's This is My Bourbon group. You can find it just on Facebook.com, and there are just questions, so you can become a part of this community. It's really cool. This first one comes from Ryan Jeeves, and I'm not sure if I said Geeves or Jeeves last week, but he did ask another question. I'm going to go with Jeeves. It's spelled with a G. I don't know. He said, "Thank you for answering."
I hope he calls in.
He might, yeah. 859-428-8253 is where you can call in.
It's just like, geez, Perry.
It's Geeves, not Jeeves.
Yeah.
Jeez. Anyway, his question is, well, he says, first and foremost, thank you for answering my question last week. This week's random question, what is your work suck today pour? I haven't had an office job in like 6 months.
Yeah.
But I kind of take it as like a today sucked pour.
Okay.
So for me, I like to start like lower proof and work my way up, right? So I'll start with like a 6-year Heaven Hill 90 proof green label, and then kind of inch my way up to 101, and then maybe a Knob Creek or whatever. But like, if the day sucked, I'm starting with Turkey 101 and like jumping like proof points by then, and like by the tip top of it, it's Elijah Craig barrel proof or Booker's or something like that, because they're pretty accessible pours that you can reach for fairly easily, and still you're not like going, oh, I don't want to pour this Booker's because I spent too much
money on it.
But it's still like, Booker's has a really good place in terms of like affordable barrel proof pours.
Yeah, that's true.
I think barrel proof pours are the today sucked pour.
Okay, for you, all right.
Yeah.
See, for me, I go the other way.
You go lower proof?
I go lower proof.
Really?
Or not, I wouldn't say lower proof, but not barrel proof. Because I'm shooting for like Elijah Craig.
Okay. You're going for the pounder.
Yeah. If today sucks, and I'm pounding the...
I feel like the Perry pour was made for the
Today sucks. Yes, it was. Yeah, except Perry does it every day.
I don't.
I'm just joking.
What is this notion that's been established with this podcast that I'm only doing Perry pours? Perry pours are accidents. Or unintentional, for the most part. No, I get that.
Yes, I would say I'm. If today sucks, it's gonna be pounding an everyday sipper.
Okay. Our next question comes from Brian Wallert. Waller? I don't know. Brian Wallert. We'll go with that. He says, what's your favorite bourbon or rye-based cocktail to make for a non-whiskey drinker, and what whiskey do you use? You're not much of a cocktail drinker.
Yeah, so I'm not much of a cocktail drinker. If I'm saying... So I don't necessarily know what I would make for somebody, but if I were putting a bourbon into a cocktail, I would go with Evan Williams' Bottle and Bond.
Nice. Yeah.
Just because that's a bourbon that it's gonna hold up to whatever you're putting it in,
for sure.
and I think it's worth the bottle's not as expensive or anything like that, so you're not hurting putting it in a cocktail. With that being said, I'd probably just give him bourbon.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way too, but I still love the what I thought up until recently was my own creation, but the Keeneland Breeze,
Yes.
bourbon and orange liqueur topped with Ale 8. I think that's a really, really great cocktail to give somebody, and it's refreshing. It's got zest to it, and I think that the bourbon still kind of shows through with it too.
And if you don't have Ale 8, replace it with ginger ale.
Ginger ale, yeah, absolutely. Brennan Mayer asks,
Which is
sorry.
actually what the Keeneland Breeze is made. It's with Seagram's, not Ale 8.
What? I thought it was Ale 8.
It's ginger ale, I believe.
You just blew my tiny Pear Bear mind.
I'll have to check that again, but I believe that it's just Seagram's ginger ale.
I could have sworn it was Ale 8.
So you might have actually created that drink.
This one comes from Brennan Mayer. He says, what's your go-to glass? What makes you decide which glass to use, i.e. tasting, reviewing, nosing, proof? Follow-up, do a side-by-side of the same whiskey in a different glass and see if you get different notes. We did that.
We did that already.
We did that without even seeing the question.
That's awesome.
I kind of would say my go-to glass is the Glencairn.
That's what I would say.
You know,
if I'm reviewing, yeah, by far.
Yeah. Glencairns for me are tasting.
Yes.
Right? But I don't want to, the bourbon works. I don't want to discredit, that's what I'm looking for, a rocks glass, just as a pour. You know?
If you're just pouring, if you're just having a drink, if you're having a glass of bourbon after work.
Exactly.
If you're having a glass of bourbon at dinner. If you're having a glass,
rocks
something
glass,
you've had,
totally fine.
Something you're not trying to actually sit down and think about, rocks glass.
Totally fine. Yeah.
Or the New Orleans glass. I think you could even put that in there.
This next one's kind of a weird off-the-wall question. This comes from Tyler Pessour. He's a new member of our Facebook group.
Welcome to the Facebook
yes,
group.
Welcome, Tyler. Yeah. He said, what is the square root of pi? Now, on any other occasion, I would have said I don't do math very well, but just so you know, I have memorized the square root of pi. It is 1.772453855091, and just in case you were wondering, Tyler, so there you go.
I like it.
Yeah.
I'm glad Perry was there to answer that question.
Next question comes from Joseph Brazo, good friend of the show. He says, and I've not read this one yet, so who's to say where this is going to go?
Oh, boy.
He says, I know they're rather intertwined, but of nose, palate, and finish, which matters most? Would you rather drink a bourbon that smells awful but tastes great, or a magical nose and crappy palate? And where does finish? So, did that make sense? You look a little lost.
No, I'm good.
Okay. You looked slightly confused.
No, I was thinking.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Which apparently makes... I just look like I'm confused. But...
It's just
like
your
Swan.
general state of being. Yeah,
like Swan. Yeah.
Swan's like, I'm just here for it.
Yeah.
I would rather drink a bourbon that tastes great but smells awful.
Oh, yeah. By far.
By far.
I would go... This is how it would be. I would definitely want the palate. It needs to taste good.
Yeah.
I can get over the fact that it might smell bad. But
I just thought of a very specific bourbon that I don't want to talk about on the podcast, but maybe we'll be a really good Patreon bonus episode.
Gotcha.
Sorry. Moving on. I apologize.
So in the order, I would say palate to nose to finish.
I would go palate, finish, nose.
Okay.
No, actually, I'd agree with you. Now that I think about it.
I think you get so much more notes from the nose.
Yeah, I think that the nose is going to be more exciting.
Also, that's one of your main sensories, so...
Yeah, for sure.
I don't think the finish...
And I love a good finish on a bourbon, but I'm not craving it, I guess. I think that the finish for me is kind of like that added bonus, you know, that gets me excited for it again. But is it necessary? Maybe
It should have a little bit.
It should have a little bit, but who's to say? Anyway,
Where to say?
that we are to say.
Yeah.
You're correct. That was our mailbag segment, and I think it's time for tips and bits. Curtis, are you ready for tips and bits? As you roll your eyes and realize that you totally forgot to prepare anything to recommend.
We just have so many segments now.
That's what separates us from other bourbon podcasts. We're for the listener,
Yes.
right? I'll start with one. I have a few, actually.
Wow, you've thought about it.
I have thought about it.
Okay.
My first one.
I have one.
Can I still go first?
Back off.
Oh,
Just kidding.
okay.
You go ahead.
Wow, it's my show. I'm just kidding.
Oh.
It's our show.
You about to argue?
No.
Just kidding. You go ahead.
The first posthumous album for
Mac Miller.
Yeah.
That was going to be mine.
Circles.
Yes.
It's ridiculous.
I've been listening to it all week.
It feels like a real album that he crafted. I mean, it legitimately has this feel of he was sitting with the producers and making everything happen to his taste. And I think that is what encapsulates the legacy of Mac Miller, is that people took what he was doing and they latched onto it in such a visceral way and said, we're going to continue this legacy. And if it had been done any other way that didn't feel true to his music, it would have been lost. It would have just been noise. But this album,
It's very good.
it's like a is Tupac dead kind of album, because it feels so real. It feels so authentic.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I stole your tips.
No,
and bits, but
no, that's totally fine. That's funny that we were thinking the same exact thing, though.
I think that's just a testimony to how authentic it is.
And that first song, Circles,
I'm a big
in my
fan
opinion,
of Good News.
Okay, yeah,
I think Good News is, as the kids are saying today, a banger.
it's a banger. It's as some kids would say, a bop.
It slaps.
It slaps.
That's what I've heard recently.
It's lit.
I don't necessarily like it slaps, but
It's fun to say every once in a while.
It's fine. Yeah.
I also like Blue World.
Oh yeah, the groove on Blue World
Yeah.
is ridiculous. What about this? Have you watched the Jeff Goldblum show on Disney Plus?
I have watched one episode.
I really like it.
Okay.
I
I
mean,
watched
I'm
the
a-
sneakers episode.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
And if you want to be a wannabe sneaker expert, learn Flipper.
I really, really like that show. I've watched, actually, I think I've watched like 2 or 3.
Okay.
But if you're talking about just a really cool documentary, it's good.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it a lot. Do you have anything else that you want to recommend?
No, I was gonna say Mac Miller.
That was your only other thing.
It was really good.
I have one more, and it's partially self-indulgent rather, but also because I love and support him. Fred Minnick has a new podcast. It's called The Fred Minnick Show, and it ties in whiskey and music.
Wow. Okay.
So he's so far, as of recording, there's only been 2 episodes that have come out. He is interviewing musicians and drinking whiskey with them. It's really, really good. And you know, there's some level of like, is this going to be overproduced, or is this going to be like out of touch with the podcast world? But it feels very self-aware. It feels very grounded, and I think Fred's done a great job with it so far. I'm actually going to be interviewing Fred about it here very soon, so stay tuned for that. But there's really good things to come from it. It's just called the Fred Minnick Show. It's on all podcast providers. I think that we've done a pretty good job of spanning multiple aspects of entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that about does it for this episode, Curtis. What do you think?
I think that's about it.
You don't have anything else you want to say?
No, I've had a great time.
Had a good episode?
Yeah.
A great time.
A great time.
A great time.
Yes.
Well, now that we've offended all of our Irish listeners, where can they find you on social media so they can let you know how much we've offended them?
Yeah. You can find me on Instagram at KurtCon and on Twitter, Kurt_Con15.
And I am at PRitter1492 on all social media channels. If you would like to follow the show, it is at My Bourbon Pod on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. If you could please leave us a 5-star rating and review on the iTunes podcast app, that would be awesome. And it is a great way for new listeners to seek out the show, find it if they just search Bourbon Podcasts in the app. They will see it because there are more people listening to it and reviewing it. So for those of you who have done so already, we really do appreciate you. We're always happy to see new reviews coming in. This one, actually, as I scroll down to it, is from Shaybell20. And they say, well, the title is The Bourbon Boys Are Killing It. Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you. The review is, where to even start with these dudes? What they bring to the bourbon community is just hands down awesome. They have so much knowledge that is just so spot on and want to share with others. Yet at the same time, hearing others' opinions and knowledge is refreshing. Listening to this podcast has been a highlight of my week. I get so excited when I see a review coming up, and I know it's going to be honest and real. And I love how they can often have differing opinions about a certain bourbon. Not to mention, they are stupid funny. I guess we're funny, as I just break my glass on the floor. If you haven't already checked them out, you need to. Perry Pour has definitely become a continuous phrase in my vocabulary. Thanks, guys, for making a great podcast for bourbon enthusiasts like myself. Keep up the great work. Also, thanks for making it family-friendly. Easy.
I love that.
Happy to do that, yeah.
Thank you so much.
That's awesome.
Very appreciative.
Yeah. So, again, rate and review on the iTunes app. You can send questions or comments about the show to thisismybourbonshop@gmail.com. We always love hearing from people. You can become a part of our Facebook group at facebook.com/mybourbonpodcast. Just a couple questions to get you in and, make sure you're a listener of the show. All of our apparel and merchandise is at bourbonshop.threadless.com. You can check that out for sure. And then last but not least, you can become a patron of the show at patreon.com/mybourbonpodcast, where you can replace my glass that I just broke. Very sad about. No, it's fine.
We're running out of glasses, man.
We're going to be out of glasses here in a couple of weeks. No, for as little as $1 a month, you can help out the show as we continue month to month, week to week, day to day. It is a really great way for you to show your support for this podcast. You get bonus content at the $5 tier, like our pregame chats and like our bonus episodes that come out every month. At $10, you have a private and really exclusive little live stream or hangout that happens every single month. Those are always loads of fun. We just hang out and chat about whiskey and what's been going on with everybody for a while. I think that does it for this week. I'm tired. I'm ready to eat more fried chicken.
Same.
Thank you all so much for listening. I'll see you next week. But until then, I'm Perry.
I'm Curtis.
And this is My Bourbon Podcast.